Hello Australia, welcome to ANR News. This is the Raw Report. I'm Ryan Jackson-Saul. Today we had the very good pleasure of speaking with Peter Manuel of Flag Australia. Flag Australia is one of the country's largest land and farmer advocacy groups. Unfortunately, during this interview process, the microphone had a technical difficulty and I wasn't able to record my questions. However, I'm sure you'll find this interview extremely engaging. Thank you.
Yes, mate. This was back in about November 2010, and I got invited to go to a meeting, an NRM meeting, Natural Resource Management meeting. Knew nothing about this mob, an environmental mob. Anyway, I went along to this meeting, and there was about 150 people there, and about 7 of these Department of Water out the front, and I listened to their jargon for about, I don't know, an hour and a half. And I don't read much, mate. I'm no academic. I haven't done much schooling, to be quite honest. And I could see the whole lot. The whole lot was about control. And anyway, sort of into that meeting, it was a bit quiet for a minute, and I put my hand up and I said, I'd like to ask you a question. And oh yeah, and I said, who owns the water that falls from the sky? Deadly silence. I asked him again, deadly silence. The third time I said, I'm not going anywhere. Who owns the water? Tell people here tonight. And this little guy stood up and he said, the Crown. I said, oh, is that a fact? I said, well, if the Crown owns the water, mate, we own our dams, we sink our bores, we own our rainwater tanks, we'll bill you for the storage of your so-called water. Another guy stood up from the department and said, there's a court system, mate. I knew then we were in trouble, big time. So when I went away from that meeting, I did some thinking and I thought, we've got to act pretty quick here. So I thought about starting up Flag. And we've been going now for nearly 11 years, non-stop, town hall meetings. We have meet the candidate nights and so on. And I'm hated by the government, Liberal, Labor, Greens. We've got a couple on side, good old Craig Kelly, United Australia Party, Good One Nation. But things are very, very serious. And they've taken the water away from our farms. Malcolm Turnbull in 2007 separated water from land, made it a tradable commodity. Now we've got communist China that's threatened war on us, actually, that now are the biggest purchaser of our water rights. I've got 2 bores here at home and a dam and I can't irrigate because I have not got a water licence. I can't get a water allocation. So this is absolutely disgraceful what's going on. They've taken the farmers' water and the farmers have got to buy back their own water. It's been ignored completely. And let's go back to good old Gough Whitlam, 1972, when he got in. That's when the rot started. The Liberals have done nothing to repeal any of this. Liberal and Labor are to blame. They're both in on this. And we are now being governed by a new world order. And let me tell you, if anybody says that's a load of garbage, we'll just have a listen recently to that Brad Hazzard speech. And what's her name? Kant, I think her name is, over there in New South Wales. They've both slipped it out in their speeches about a new world order. And you only have to look what's happening in Victoria with Como Dam and other parts around Australia. We're not being governed by Liberal and Labor. We are being governed by the United Nations, big time, the new world order. And people need to get that in their thick heads. They really do. You certainly can. And if we have a look what good old Como Dan signed up to in Victoria, the Belt and Road Initiative with China, have a look what happened to the port in Sri Lanka when they signed up to the Belt and Road Initiative with China. They couldn't pay for the infrastructure that was done. So what did China do? Take the port of Sri Lanka. So if we have a look what's going on in this country at the moment, with the way that we are getting into bigger and bigger debt, how are we going to get out of this debt? Where are we borrowing this money from? Communist China, are we? Are they going to end up saying, well, you can't pay this back, we'll take your country? because our treasonous politicians couldn't care less about we, the people here in Australia. They've been infiltrated big time. They're only interested in their pockets. They don't care about us. If they did, we would not be in the position we're in. We would have not closed our manufacturing, our industry. We would not be selling our water. We would not be selling our agricultural land to foreigners. We would not be leasing our ports. We would not be selling our public assets. And anybody that votes for the Liberal Party, the Labor Party and the Greens are helping to for the destruction of this country, Ryan. And in a way, we're very lucky that we've got a federal election coming up, because if we don't get the right people in power, well, this country is finished. We see what's happening now with the zero emissions by 2050. That is absolutely going to destroy the mum and dad farmers, absolutely kill us. I mean, putting a meat tax on our grass-fed cattle, for God's sake, of $1.61 a kilo on a 500 kilo live weight animal, that's $800. It was only a few years ago we were only getting $650 for a cow and calf unit. And Morrison signing up for this, and stupid-looking Barnaby Joyce for the National Party. Come on, they were supposed to stick up for farmers, and he sided with Morrison. Good on Matt Canavan for sticking to his guns. Matt Canavan is showing real guts here. Good on Matt. I mentioned this many years ago on radio. That question was asked to me probably about 8 years ago. And I said, these greenies, these environmentalists, which that's what they are, they want the land to be one big national park. And of course, once all our stock's gone, can you imagine the mess in our paddocks, broken debris, branches everywhere? What's the point of cutting hay? You won't be able to sell it. There'll be no stock to eat it. So what's going to happen? This place is going to go up in smoke so they can push their climate change garbage, bigger bushfires. We're in serious trouble. And Scott Morrison, I can tell you now, there's a lot of people now that have gone right off this guy. And if he signs this, well, I'm afraid that the Liberal and the Labor Party are going to be decimated at the next election. They really are. Oh, look, it's all about the big corporates, the money people. We only have to look at when I mentioned about the meat tax on our cattle. That's grass-fed cattle, but it's not on lot feed cattle. So who's got mainly the big lot feeds? So the big cattle in the lot fed bloody places. It's the corporates. If I seem a little bit angry, Ryan, I am. I'm disgusted. I'm angry, and we're fed up with what the garbage that's being fed up to us. No, not just farmers, because FLAG stands for Food Producers Landowner. That's anybody with a house. So we're not just on about farmers. Everybody's going to be affected here, everybody. And when you think that grass-fed animals, hang on, they're out in the paddock, they've got plenty of room to move around, but we're going to put a tax on them. But if they're in a confined area in a lot feed, they're not going to be taxed. Doesn't make sense. You only have to put two and two together, and it's about getting rid of the mum and dad farmer and looking after the corporates. I asked the question at a natural resource management meeting years ago, and this guy was talking about methane emissions from cattle. You know, we've got to reduce the numbers and so on. And I said, well, okay, mate, what about kangaroos? And he hesitated, and he spun around like a wild old fox and said, oh, they're not in the equation, they're native. What about camels? What about water buffalo? What about koalas? This is absolute madness. It's about destroying the mum and dad farmers. These people, as I said, are environmentalists. The Greens are watermelons, green on the outside, red on the in, and we've had a flame enough, and we're going to fight this. We really are, because we're not going to see this country go down the gurgler because of a few nutcases in Parliament that are only looking after their own little pockets and their own little nest. We're sick of it, absolutely sick of it. The most common issues is the red and green tape and over-regulation, and they keep changing the goalpost on us. It's getting harder and harder to farm. And look, it doesn't matter whether we look at native vegetation clearing, and people say, oh, no, we can't clear all this. Get in an aeroplane and fly around Australia and have a look how much actual cleared land there is. You would be surprised. We're getting more and more scrub. They talk about trees. They're planting low density bush, I call it scrub, and it's just a fuel for major bushfires. And this is so they can push their flame and climate change garbage. Now, you know, that's gonna, their little furry animals and all the rest of it, and their lizards and their one testicle blue-eyed bullfrog, they're gonna go up in smoke anyway. So we need the land cleared so these animals can escape. So we've got an avenue where we can escape too. And if we can't grow our food here in Australia, we're in serious trouble, Ryan, serious trouble, as you would know. Of course it's not. No, definitely not. When we bought property years ago, the water was with that land. But now you buy a property and then you might have a dam and you might have a couple of bores like here. And if you're unaware of what's going on, buyer beware, you could think, oh, well, if there's a dam here, there's a couple of bores here, I'll get the sprinklers going when I need to. You can't. Satellite imagery, all of a sudden they see a green patch. You'll have the Nazi police coming around saying you're stealing water. You haven't got a license. You haven't got an allocation. Oh, this is a fact. I can give you one example of a property just up from mine. The Department of Water went in and said to this guy, they had aerial photos of his property, and they said, we want to see your 4 dams. He said, I've only got 3. No, we want to see the 4. We've got it here. And he said, oh, let me have a look. He had a look at the map, and he said, yeah, those 3 dams are mine, but he said that square one's a horse menage. So when that was taken, there was a bit of rain, and it looked like a dam. It was a horse menage. It was about 2 inches deep. They've been onto other properties and said about, oh, look, you know, that dam there's over 5 meg, you need a water licence. Sorry, it's not even on my property. That's the next door neighbour's dam. I mean, this whole thing is a joke, and I've got to get back to Liberal and Labor. They're doing nothing to help us, mate. They're destroying us, absolutely destroying us. So anybody out there that votes for these two, and I can't enforce it enough, they are voting for the destruction of this country. They really are. And I used to be a member of the Liberal Party and raised money for many years, and not anymore. No way. Well, what we're going to eat, mate, for a start, we're going to have starvation. And secondly, we'll be eating inferior food coming from overseas. Now, we've already seen berries come from China that are contaminated, Chile and elsewhere. You know, we've got the best country in the world if we had the right people in charge. You know, we could be making cars and washing machines and fridges and lawnmowers and everything again, but no, our politicians don't want us to. And we could be growing all the food in the world, and we could be supplying the world with food. And we've got the cleanest food in the world, believe me, we really have. But why do we let all this other inferior quality food come in here? Because it's about destroying this country. And people might say, look, our government wouldn't do that. Hang on, have a look what our government's doing to us now. As I mentioned earlier, manufacturing gone, industry gone, the pressure they're putting us mum and dad farmers under, there's no need for it. But under saving the planet, climate change. No, it's not. What it's doing is it's making a few people very, very wealthy. And they know damn well they get to a lot of people, oh, look, you know, we're ruining the climate. We're not ruining the climate. All the money in the world won't change the climate, Ryan. All of a sudden, if we said $10 billion is going to change the climate, what are we going to get? Rain at night, 25 degrees during the day, or maybe the odd shower on a Sunday? Come on, let's be realistic. It's a load of garbage, it really is. Look, at the end of the day, it's all rubbish, the whole lot. If there was a climate emergency, and I just ask people who look at this video, you've got a brain, think for yourself. If there was a climate emergency, why do they all jump on a plane? They've got 2 or 3 phones, they've got flash cars and all the rest of it. They can't wait to get on a plane and go wherever. Why don't they sit in their office and do teleconferencing if they're so serious about saving the planet? They couldn't give a stuff about the planet, mate. It's all about mixing with their hobnobs and filling their pockets. It's disgusting. They're a mob of traitors. They really are. Yeah, Trans-Pacific Partnership should have never been signed. Paris Agreement should have never been signed. Lima Agreement should have never been signed. These are all treaties to not look after Australia. It's to destroy Australia. And if we have a look at the Lima Agreement, that's where our manufacturing, our industry started to go, because, oh, look, we'll give it to third world countries and pull them out of the muck. Well, what it's done is it's made the corporates even richer, because they're using third world countries for cheap labour, and we get a cheap, inferior product. And what's happened to our country? We are slowly being put into a third world country. We are going to end up like Venezuela the way it's going. And it's got to stop. And the only way we're going to stop it is send that message, Ryan. And you young people need to really come on board, because us older people, we'll be gone and that was it. But you young people are going to suffer more than anything. I know what it was like years ago. I'm 64 years of age, and I can see the difference. And they know people are waking up. When I say they, the elite, they know people are waking up. That's why they're pushing this garbage so quickly. They really are. And if we don't wake up and stop it and get the right people in there, there's no hope for Australia. There's not. Of course. No, of course it could. Of course it could. Anything could happen. Have a look what Daniel Andrews is doing in Victoria. So anything could happen with the wrong person in power or people in power. They can do anything. You know, look, it's a little bit like the jab. Now, I don't agree with the jab. I don't. But if you want it, you should be entitled to have it. I haven't got a problem. I'll still talk to you. No problems there at all. But what they're doing is divide and conquering people. The ones that haven't had the jab, the ones that have, because this is how communism works. Divide and conquer. Making people feel guilty. And they push the youth out like that Greta Thunberg, who knows nothing, pushing her out. This is what Hitler did to push their agenda. So if we have a look at the jab, for instance, and I know people that have died, and I know people that are very, very sick because they had the jab. I just had a meeting with somebody earlier this morning, and here in Strathalbyn, she knows 3 people that have died because they've had the jab, just in my hometown here. I can tell you now, with this jab, Ryan, and I'm sorry to go on, but now that in the beginning they were saying 1 jab, now it's 2, now it's a 3 booster. Well, Morrison, the government's ordered 157 million doses, 25 million people in Australia. That's about 6 or 7 jabs. Keep rolling up your arm. And what are we going to get? 1 minute AstraZeneca, next minute Moderna, next minute, the other one, Pfizer. Crikey, you don't even mix your flaming coolants in your motor car. They say don't mix that coolant with that coolant because it's not going to work. It's going to do harm. Yet we can jab people 3, 4, 5 and 6 times with different flaming vaccines. Come on, it's ridiculous. I just want people to know that do look at this. It's not Peter Manuel. Go and do your homework. Don't listen to Peter Manuel. Do your own homework. Look up Michael Yeadon, Vice President of Pfizer, who set up many biotech companies, sold them for millions and millions of dollars. The Vice President of Pfizer saying, do not have these vaccines. Google Dr. Peter McCullough. See what he's got to say. Don't listen to the mainstream fake media because they are hoodwinking you. They are lying to you. Please do your own homework. That's my message to people, Ryan. Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, look, and go to, it's all lowercase, Flag Australia, all one word, flagaustralia.org, or Peter Manuel Flag Australia Facebook page, or Peter Manuel Facebook page. Don't do a lot on our website. They can just see what I've done over the years and that. You can click on YouTubes and different things. Just with what I've got on my plate these days, it's a lot easier just to do a quick Facebook something and get it out there, and that's it. But these interviews, much appreciated, mate. I really do. Yes, I do. You've got a brain, use it. Anybody that the mainstream media is bagging or having a crack at, they're the good ones. They're the good ones. So don't believe them. They're not your friend. I can assure you. I've had a lot to do with the media. I've had a lot to do with politicians. And as I said earlier, there's probably 98% I do not trust. Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it.